Hello, everybody. Velo Morgulis. Hail Tommen, first of his name. Welcome back. Another week, another Game of Thrones. Episode 5, we have officially broken a Game Trailers of Thrones record because we only made 4 episodes when we were talking about last season on camera. But now, with the smaller budget of just being on the microphone here, we managed to get to 5 episodes. I'm very proud of us.
Yeah, but I'm already working on excuses for when we can't film in a couple weeks.
Right.
So we'll see how long this goes.
But maybe it's a bad sign that we're a bit of a condensed crew. I just have Mr. Jeremy Hoffman with me today. Mr. Ryan Stevens is currently having a bacchiotomy at his house. And Mr. Marco Rosado and also Mr. Damiani are not available. So it'll just be the two of us. Maybe it'll be a shorter episode. Maybe it'll be a longer episode. We're going to kick back and watch the episode, which I'm going to start now. And we were already kind of chatting about it before I hit record. Basically just about how, what did you say? It wasn't a spoilery episode, but it was the intentions were very clear of everyone in this episode.
Yeah, it's a lot. It feels like for book readers, it was a little bit of breaking the fourth wall. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Once again, it's another slow episode. It feels like this one pairs really well with last week, where it's a lot of setup, a lot of resetting kind of people's intentions. We get that right at the top with Tommen getting crowned, and we kind of see what's going on with him and his family, and it's a lot of realizing that they all knew Joffrey was a monster.
People are so happy.
Yeah, everyone.
For the first time, legitimate, cheers and applause.
Even Cersei, though, in this episode, it's like, yeah, he was a monster, but he was my son.
Well, we'll get to that. That was interesting. I do want to point out that Varys is in this scene, and Maester, I always forget his name, the Grand Maester. I love that they're both here. Don't say a word, just in this one scene, but they brought them in for this episode.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
They should be.
Varys has said he had one scene where he talked to Tyrion and warned him, and that was it. That was the only thing he's done this whole season, but he's always there, just like a ghost in the shadows.
Just like the books, right?
So this reminds me of the GIF with Sean Astin and Dom DeLuise's son from Encino Man, where he waves to the pretty girl and DeLuise pops in I love just Cersei. I want to make a GIF out of that, just Cersei popping in and being like, eyes off my son. But this is an interesting scene. This was definitely added on. We got a lot of view into Cersei's mind in the books, and we never got to this kind of stuff of her actually admitting that Joffrey was kind of a freak.
Yeah, and there's a lot of questions. I think you just said it. A couple other people have asked, why are they trying to make Cersei likable? And
Jaime unlikable.
But once again, it's the Game of Thrones. No one is good. No one is bad. Everyone's just trying to get ahead, crawl ahead for themselves. And Cersei, what is she going to do? Kill her own son? No, that's blood. But now that Joffrey's out of the way, the whole kingdom could kind of take a nice sigh and be like, okay, we've got at least someone here, at least Tommen, someone they could control. And now we're going to see people kind of jump in and see who could control him.
I like Cersei kind of putting her heart out there and Marjorie not. Her kind of being like, okay, let me open up to you and just confess this one thing. And Marjorie's like, that's nice.
Yep.
What am I going to call you, mom or sister? Ha ha ha. The look of just venom that Cersei gives her in this scene is great. And Marjorie's just very, getting very good at what she does. You see her grandmother walking down the steps while they're talking, and she trained her granddaughter well. And I like the look of kind of fear in her eyes when she realizes that Cersei's approaching her. They give, really close up on Marjorie to kind of build that sense of I can do this. It's showtime. We're here.
This, I felt, like I said, without getting, we could come back and do some of the spoiler stuff later, but this was a lot of foreshadowing, just kind of a lot of resetting the universe up, explaining plots, explaining narrative to people at home. So I feel like there's not a lot to kind of point out and be like, look at this, here's what's going on, because this whole episode is characters saying that to the audience.
I think this foreshadowing just sums up this whole episode. I mean, we get a lot of that obviously, in the early episodes of a season, but this particularly in being the halfway point, the 50-yard line of season 4, to kind of set up, here's where this is going. Everything that you're seeing now is going to come to a head sometime this season.
Yep.
These are the major moments of stuff. that you can look forward to. So make our huge jump across the pond to the Eastern Kingdoms, and love Jorah, love everyone in the scene, love Dario's brief little bit about her liking ships. Kind of a funny reference. He's like, I've seen season 1 through 3. You know, I know what you like.
Yeah. I know you wanted some ships. No, this is a people. You know, we were talking about it last week, right? And I didn't want to spoil it, but obviously Dany's going to have to stick around for a while. And this is the time she's realized that just taking a city and having the biggest army doesn't make you queen. You have to have that ability to rule and that respect, not just from, you know, the lowest born, but from the highborn as well. And she's not ready to take Westeros at this point.
We make fun of Daenerys a lot because, you know, we comment on how, like, these chapters are so boring in the books and you never really know. And granted, like, it is, of all the characters and all the plot lines in the book, she's the one that's the fuzziest. Where, like, when I was looking ahead at, you know, the future seasons when first starting the show and thinking, like, what was that, Astapor? Was that Yunkai? I can't remember.
Yep.
At the same time, this scene kind of proves that, like, she does have a lot to deal with. These are very tough decisions, and it's a great turning point midway through the season for her to realize, okay, I am getting this momentum, and like Jorah says, you can just leave. You know, we just get in these ships and get out of here, and she can't do that. So, you know, helps justify something that would possibly frustrate people, which is like, you know, man, when I was introduced to this character in season 1, I didn't think I'd be here season 4, and she's still, like, beating up people in the desert and freeing slaves. So, and more foreshadowing, but we'll get, you know, we can maybe get to that in a giant spoiler dragon in the end. I also want to point out, I like that we saw her on this balcony in an earlier episode, and now they're in the council room that's just past that balcony, so it's nice to set up where we are, even though they're clearly on a set, which is a bunch of lights in the background, but it just sells it. I like, it's a very bright scene too, and like, you know, Daenerys is obviously the focus, but you're staring at her with just the super bright sun outside, so it kind of makes her imposing, and Jorah just wants to tap that. In the last shot when she walks out of the balcony, and he's like, yep, hate to see you go, but I love to watch you leave.
Everyone loves Dany in this poor group, except I think, but the only one that doesn't want to get in her pants is Sir Barristan the Bold at this point.
Well, and Grey Worm.
Well, I think even then he's got some affection for her. He has no tools to do what he would want to get done.
I like the Grey Worm's the first to leave when she's like, everyone leave. Grey Worm just whoop, turns around, does a 180, takes off. You know, doesn't question it for a second.
Yep.
So this might seem kind of boring. Like, as I'm going back through and actually watching the episode for a second time today and looking at the stuff for the Eyrie, being like, okay, it's kind of nice they're setting up Littlefinger, but nothing's really happening here. I felt like I was filled with electricity when I was watching this scene, because it's just one of those moments that, like, every time there's a new episode, I'm like, when is she going to get to the Eyrie? Like, when does that start, that whole thing? Obviously, Littlefinger's up to something, you know, and, like, this was a really gratifying part of the book, and so it's really exciting to see it start.
Well, I also think, you know, at this point, once again, like, episodes 4 and 5 to me really feel like they're tying up a lot of loose strings. They're setting up some of the bigger plots for the second half of the season, and this is one of those moments where anytime Littlefinger's talking, it's important. Like, he's usually the one kind of laying out the rules to the game or explaining some plot details you didn't know about, and that happens in this episode a few times where you really get some insight into kind of how he's been pulling the strings the whole time.
And I think it's really smart to put characters like Sansa and Littlefinger together, because she obviously has no idea what's going on, and he obviously knows more about what's going on than anyone else, save Varys and Tywin. Yeah. And so they're perfect together. You know, it's kind of like talking about combat with Arya and the Hound, you know, or talking about, you know, stewardship with Pod and Brienne. You know, it's like, great, that's totally makes sense for these two. Yep. Even, you know, Brienne and Jaime. It's just, that's one of my favorite things about Game of Thrones is it's kind of like the UFC. It's like why I got hooked on the UFC is I started watching a couple, you know, pay-per-view events, and I was like, I don't know any of these guys, but the second I did and actually had a basis of like how good they were at what, and then you would square two people off against each other like Marjorie and Cersei, it just gets really exciting. It's really fun to watch, and they do a great job of varying it up and you not being stuck with the same people. So the Erie's super cool.
Yeah.
No one's taken it in 1,000 years.
No one's gonna. I never understood why they just didn't run up top though. Why would you have to go through the corridor in the middle?
I remember one line specifically from season 1 where we haven't been. If you guys remember specifically where that happened, you're like, oh yeah, this place. Oh yeah, that crazy kid and his mom.
It's been a while.
I don't think the line was in the book, but I remember a line from the first season where they said, oh yeah, it's impregnable. And one guy that was in the group that was taking Tyrion to the Eyrie said, just give me a hook and a rope and I'll impregnate the bitch.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, and because it's impregnable and because the security's so good, super lonely, super cold. Not a lot going on here. Not a lot of parties.
You got Sansa's crazy aunt, who's obviously like she could have some parties, but she's terrified that everyone is out to get her, which is just funny because really the only person in the kingdom that's out to get anyone right now is Littlefinger, and he's standing right in front of her.
She brings him into her bed.
He's got the biggest villain in the whole universe is kind of standing in front of her, and she's like, I don't know, there's all these really bad people out there, and it's like, oh no, he's right in front of you.
Well, and not to backtrack a little bit, but that is such a great moment where Littlefinger talks about the security of the castle and is like, there's no way to get in there and launch any kind of, any plot or anything. And it's like, there you go, he gets this total like evil smirk when the gate goes up and he's just like, yeah, I'm in. And it's cool that he recognizes him. I like the look from the guard before they go in where he looks at Sansa and recognizes her. And poor Robin, Sir Robin.
Oh, poor little.
To speak on this actor, I think when they first hired him, they got a really good, a perfect fit for the style of what they wanted to do with Robin. But now that he's 3 years older,
yeah.
I think he gets it. I think he really understands.
He's great. He's totally kind of that. It's just so funny because I guess at this point he's oh, there goes the toy. At this point he's probably the same age as Tommen.
Yeah.
And you just see kind of how exact opposites they are. Like,
well, he's a product of his environment, much like Joffrey was. Nobody really stopped him. He had a dad who had a bunch of cool weapons around and loved going out and killing animals, and so he just grew up like torturing animals and being cruel to people. And this boy has no friends. He doesn't get out. He's extremely pale. He never sees any sun. When the sun does shine, he's indoors. And I think it's hilarious. I feel sorry for her, but it's also just like absolutely hilarious every single time Sansa's like, "Oh, thank God! Thank God I got to King's Landing. Oh crap! Like, oh, thank God I got to the Eyrie. Oh crap!"
Poor girl's never safe.
And obviously Littlefinger's biting the bullet here for hooking up with Lysa. So he must be up to something, because there's no way, from what we know about Littlefinger, that he would subject himself to this for anything. I mean, she's obviously royalty, but there might be more to it than that. And she's great. Again, someone who I think totally gets it. We've all been in this place before with crazy boyfriends or girlfriends. You're just like, shh, be quiet.
Well, you got to remember, the thing that people I think probably forget at this point is the way that the kingdoms are split up. This is the Vale is the east. So this is like one of the big 7 kingdoms. So this crazy lady is one of the 7 most powerful families in the universe right now, and Littlefinger's working his way into her pants. Like, so this isn't just some small, I guess my point is for those people that haven't seen it, picked up on it, this isn't some small house.
Yeah,
this is
showing the
this
soldiers
is a
was probably
very
smart.
important family that has a long history, and he's working his way in.
Which I was going to say, showing the soldiers was probably smart. Seeing them along the wall and being like, wow, she actually has a force, a bunch of people, not just one guard at the gate. And to point out, and I think they did mention this on the show, that maybe Kat was frustrated that she sent out to her sister for help to defend the North. I don't remember specifically when that happened, but I remember that they called on her for troops, and like everything else, she was like, no, too scared.
Yep,
can't send anybody.
She's
must
in
stay
her
inside.
valley and is not going to leave.
Them having super loud sex was one of my favorite moments from all 5 books.
It reminds me, it's like, it's the meta version of the HBO Go trailer commercials that were going around a couple weeks ago of like watching some of these shows with your parents. So then you see it like kind of happening to Sansa within the show. It's like, poor girl. I love how quickly Lysa here is just ready to get married.
Oh yeah, she was waiting on the throne with Robin. She was. What took you so long? So back in King's Landing with Tywin and Cersei, we've had a scene with them earlier that was not so civil, and this scene is not only civil. He pours a glass of wine for her. Definitely wants to loosen her up before he tells her a very interesting spoiler of sorts that we kind of hinted at in an earlier episode of GameTrailers of Thrones, and again talks about foreshadowing. Talks about this the show kind of showing its hand, or the lore, I guess. Yeah, Bravos, don't mess with them. What are you going to say about that?
Wars take a lot of money, and everyone always thought the Lannisters had all the money, and they don't. We've heard, a couple people at this point mention the Iron Bank of Bravos, and we still don't know where the Iron Bank gets all their money from, at least, in the books. So it's going to be interesting to see, just like real life, the bankers are the ones that are controlling everything and don't piss them off. Where, I think also at this point, Cersei kind of sees that, her dad is, wants her to get married. It's almost like he's playing her a little bit, right? He's kind of showing a little bit of crack in his armor. It's not just all Lannister all the time, and she's gonna have to step up and do something for the family. It's not, they don't have their money protecting them anymore. The big thing that the Lannisters always had going for them was their cash, and little did the rest of the kingdom know that money's gone. Those wells are dried up.
I wonder if Tyrion knew. I don't remember that specifically from the books because he, was offered to, didn't both Tyrion and Jaime? Oh no, he said, I'm not going to give you Castle Rock, but Jaime got offered it. And, whether it's because of his honor or whether he likes King's Landing or whatever, he was, not interested in that. So I wonder, if the kids know, because this is obviously the first time Cersei's heard of this. Why do you think, obviously it's nice to know this for us, why do you think Tywin's telling Cersei this?
So I'm saying, I feel like it's almost, he's trying to get her to marry Loras here. He's trying to settle the problems that they have with her children. Tommen needs to get married, right? And it's not all about the Lannisters. They can't just force their way and bully their way with money anymore. They're out of money and they need help. And this is kind of him showing a couple cracks, saying, I've been doing a lot of fighting for this family. I've been playing the game, and now I need you to step up and play it as well. And he even says he didn't like Robert either. It's not like the first marriage was a marriage of love. It was a marriage of convenience, and it was a political play. And we're seeing that happen again.
The best characters on the show right now. So we go back to Arya and the Hound, who should be in their own spinoff. And we revisit Arya, speaking the names, which... How many times have we gotten that in the show?
Not a lot. It's one of those things, I think in the book we got it a lot more. I felt like a lot of her chapters ended with it. But in the show, I think seeing her do it every night before bed and now hear him referencing it, it just kind of proves that she's been doing it every night. So she's named a lot of names. Some of these names at this point, I believe, aren't even around anymore.
Interesting she doesn't know Joffrey's dead.
Yep.
So, and, Daenerys finds that out in this episode. So kind of fun how... news travels. In every episode, someone will discover that Joffrey has died.
And celebrate. Just because she's traveling with the Hound doesn't mean she likes it. And she's using that. There's a lot of people kind of using each other in this. There's these kids are now getting trained by kind of their counterparts. And it's interesting to see it happen. And we see the scene here with Sansa and Lysa, which is just super awkward. Lysa knows in air quotes that something's up between Sansa and Littlefinger, and Sansa doesn't want anything to be up. And I think it's a lot of honesty here and kind of on both sides, where Sansa's like, no, I don't want him. Like, I just don't want to be in King's Landing anymore.
But it's Sansa used to be really stupid. She used to make decisions to being completely blind to how it would affect her family, her sister, herself, and now it's frustrating for her. It's dramatic to watch that she's finally getting the tools to understand. Her eyes are open. She's up for anything. She's like, anyone in my family, anyone I know or care about could die in a moment. I'm totally accepting of that, but still can't do anything. Like, she's kind of burdened by her honesty, that she, wants to say, oh, this is my family. You can actually see, like, the tears welling up in her eyes when she finally sees, Lysa. And it's like, oh my God, family, how long has it been since I actually... saw someone that actually cared for me, saw someone in my family. Surely family has to be the thing that's like, you'll protect me. And she actually injures her in the scene because she's just she's lost her mind, being all alone.
Well, yeah, and poor Sansa, right? Just can't get a break.
Yeah. And some backshadowing, if you will, in a couple of these Lysa scenes where she mentions, you don't know what your mother was like when she was younger. Do you remember when we had our first wedding, Littlefinger? And so that's something that people should also kind of put in perspective is, and I think Kat talked a lot about Littlefinger in previous seasons.
Yep.
While she still could. So, these three grew up together and knew they were going to be royalty because they grew up in royal families. And so it's funny that, so many years later, I'm sure someone like Cersei, well, actually Cersei, that's actually does care about stuff that happened in her childhood. But like a lot of characters kind of put that, the Hound certainly, they kind of put that behind her. It's crazy to think of someone her age still hung up on these childhood relationships.
Well, so I mean, kind of the brief history of the Tullys and Littlefinger. Growing up, Kat is the older sister. Littlefinger was fostered at River Run with them. He fell in love with Kat, had a crush on her, but she was pledged to go to Brandon Stark, Ned Stark's older brother, who got killed in the war that kind of sets all this off. And at one point, Littlefinger gets very drunk and sneaks into the girl's room and has sex with one. And he always thought, I think for years, thought it was Kat. And, we later find out that it was Lysa. And she's always kind of been caught up in this, like, oh, well, he snuck into my room. He really wanted me. And he's kind of using that still to this day, this crush that she's had on him, where he's always one step out of her way. And he's pulling a lot of strings with her because he has, he's able to kind of mind fuck her based on what happened when they were children.
But it also creates a character, which is an interesting character you don't see a lot, like Joffrey, like Lysa, people who were put into positions of power, like the Mad King George, who were nuts,
Yep.
and you think, like the Mad King that Jaime kills, what do you do in that instance? When everyone knows he's crazy, but by this life we've created, these rules that we've put in place, we can't do anything but something, that will damn us for life. And so, interesting situations, all of them, and they almost all end in death. So moving on, we get a scene that we didn't get in the books, but is extremely delightful because these are just wonderful characters. But Pod and Brienne are making their way, a little comic relief amid all of the drama. Good stuff. Anything specific to say?
No, I mean, these two traveling is great. We're gonna, everyone's looking for the Stark kids now. It's this everyone that wants to know where the Stark children are.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't think about that, kind of covering all the bases here. And I like that Pod could easily be too much, and I still get kind of the earnestness from him that he really wants to do a good job.
Well, he was a city boy, right? And he's learning, he's going to have to learn to live on the road. That's probably how I would look if I try to ride a horse as well, though.
So I love this scene. Might be my favorite scene in the episode between Arya and the Hound. Like so many of their awesome scenes, actually tries to kill the Hound, right? Really tries to take a quote-unquote stab at it, and totally fails because of armor.
She stuck him with the pointy end, right?
Some of my favorite scenes, my favorite scene in the entire book series is about this very concept of, but wait, that's not fair. You have better equipment. Cry about it. It's like everything. It's like with government. It's like, boo-hoo, we have all the money. We win. That's how it works. And this is one of the lessons that he said in a previous episode, how many Starks have to get their heads chopped off before you realize how life works. And she still, thinks that she, is confusing power with like ultimate knowledge. Like she obviously, has a lot of will. He has no question of that. She obviously has the desire to learn and already has some skill because she's been taught by very, very smart people and been around very, very smart people and knows her stuff. But she's also a kid and just can't come to terms with that. She's trying to grow up way too fast, and the way the Hound handles it just gets slapped to the face.
Well, the Starks are always the idealist, right? They're the ones that, well, here's the rules, and then everyone should play by them. And it would work out well for them if everyone played by the rules. No one else does, though. All the Stark children are learning a lot this time around.
But great. I mean, how short is this scene? It's such a quick little beat. And I want to point out that this valley is just nuts. I mean, this location, when you kind of put it to scale, if you see how big he is, how big Arya is, and this gorgeous river going through these mountains. We jump around so much to so many different environments. So moving on to a couple of the fun actors, we have Cersei and Oberyn Martell, who are maybe dating. There's lots of fun rumors going around there because she interviewed him for something, and I guess all the Game of Thrones people went on vacation or something.
Oh wait, in real life?
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what are you talking about? I'm like, what weird version of the books are you reading that I don't know about?
That was in some side story that Gurm wrote for some collection.
I think that's some fan fiction you were reading. This is these. It's a lot of history. It's a lot of, like I said, these episodes just kind of feel like it's a lot of just telling people why things are important before all the madness happens coming up. Like these two middle episodes, and I even think next week is going to be pretty slow in comparison. It's going to be a lot of kind of setting up, reminding people what happened in previous seasons, and start pushing towards the end of the season.
I like how international the show's become now too. That like we do hear the word Dorne, the word Bravos, a lot more. Daenerys is directly speaking about King's Landing. I'm sure for a lot of people that have no idea what's going on with the show, the moment that scene started, they probably got really excited, like, oh boy, she's going, and like she's not, but it is in her mind. Like these characters are connected just because they think about each other. Like there are people that do think about all the stuff that's happening, all around the world. But interesting parallel between these two characters having lost someone that they love. The acting in the scene is a little weird. You get the special effect of them down on the beach with the boat in the background, and I don't know. This scene didn't really move me.
Yeah, like I said, this is more. I think they had to spend a lot of time. They're trying to set up who the Dornish are, right, and set up a lot of Dornish history and culture, and they've been doing that for these first 4 episodes because they're a really important family that we haven't. We probably should have seen in season 3.
Also playing up the sympathy of Cersei again, like poor her, she lost, one child before she lost another child, quote unquote, like her child's like in paradise right now,
yep.
But still, she's apart from her. So you can almost kind of see it on Oberyn's face, kind of like, why are we talking? What do you want? I was chilling, writing poetry and drinking wine. What do you want?
They don't trust each other at all.
So, and these are, fairly civil characters. And I mean, this is a little bit more amicable than their encounter at the wedding, but, I don't know. I could have sworn. Amanda was like, I'm pretty sure they're dating, and I looked it up, and there's nothing confirmed. But so yeah, back to Pot of Brienne. I don't know if we need to.
No, just another good scene. Show like building relationships and forging kind of, like I said, it's really, this whole episode feels a lot like of kind of setting up characters again and where they are and how they're interacting.
Funny without being stupid.
Yep. And now we get
and
to
then it's just like the wall. For
and
the
then the wall for the rest of the episode.
So now we jump to the North, and we're there for pretty much the rest of the episode. We're at the 38-minute mark now, so we get more than 20 minutes at the wall. Does that math work out? No, it doesn't. No. Just less than 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm an editor. I should know better than that. Lots of stuff happening here, but in its defense, all that is kind of wrapping up, and we're going back to what the heck is it called? Going back to the wall. Going back to where the Night's Watch. Castle Black.
So yeah, one of the things that I think last week people were confused about that have read the book is these scenes with the Stark children possibly going to interact that really changed would change kind of the whole series if Bran and Jon met up here, and I was arguing that it wouldn't happen and it couldn't happen and it doesn't happen. I think the thing. We've talked about it a lot and how you have to kind of realize this isn't just for people that have read the books
or just for someone reading a book.
Right. And we see that here with Jojen we see a little bit of his powers, and Bran has to make an important choice. Is it family or is it duty tonight? And he could go back to Jon. He's 25 feet from him. He could go back to family. Maybe things will go back to normal. Or does he do what he deep down knows he has to do, and he has to go north? And Jojen, having that same vision as him, really kind of cements that with Bran, and he decides to go with duty and follow the three-eyed crow to the north. And that's, I think, why it was important to change the book and have these scenes where you really see Bran make an adult choice. And same thing with Dany. Dany's grown up. I think Season 2, if Dany would have had it, 90 boats and 10,000 people, she would have rushed to King's Landing. She probably would have been defeated because she wasn't prepared. And you see it tonight that these children are having to make choices that are much more kind of, bigger choices, not the selfish choice that they would have made a couple of years ago.
Well, I also think what plays into it that I didn't really think about until right now is the juxtaposition of him on the floor, realizing he just had to possess Hodor to even make something happen. He had to possess someone he really, really cares about and use him as a vessel. It's like what a slap in the face. And is on the ground looking at his brother, who is very agile, a very good fighter, a leader clearly, and in an area that's one of the harshest conditions on the planet and surviving and doing a good job, and it's just like, what? Why am I going to bring my brother down? Basically, like, why would I throw myself at his mercy when I don't really need to? And there's clearly better things that I could do.
Well, and Bran also knows he has some sort of power here, right? And he likes this ability.
Just like Daenerys with dragons, there's
lo-
lots of people ordained to kind of do something because they have great power.
And he has, going to the north is accepting that power, and going with Jon is turning his back on that power. And he doesn't want to be a little boy that can't walk, right? He wants to have something. And now we get to the creepy scene.
I initially got upset that he didn't work out on someone, even Carl, even the guy trying to rape Mira. When she's being raped, like he gets kidnapped and then taken away, and that one he's like, okay, that's the final straw. I'll work out. But I was surprised that he didn't try that earlier. And the more I think about it, and the more I analyze these scenes, that was the best opportunity. I mean, he did it at a moment when there was no danger in front of him. It was just one guy, and Hodor could easily, chase that guy down and
crush his neck.
That was not an end to Vargo Hoat or / Locke, the character that Locke is based on. Vargo had kind of an unceremonious end in the book, and so I'm totally fine with them doing something kind of severe and important like that.
Well, it's also like for us book readers, they're killing off a couple kind of made up, quote unquote, made up characters, right? So lots of deaths happening last night, getting us back on track, and important decisions being made. Plus, I think the big thing also is we see Jon and Ghost are back together, and
we'll get into that, man. That's
We're
I turned on the waterworks when I saw that moment.
Yeah, I'd say though, we're really kind of wrapping up this episode with kind of getting everyone back on track. People have made a choice on where they're going now. All the Stark children, all kind of the children from season 1, they're adults now, and they're making adult decisions, and that's kind of what these last 2 episodes have been about.
One other thing that I think I'm convincing myself more and more that this whole Bran storyline actually worked out is I can imagine from somebody who doesn't get to jump into Brandon Stark's mind and be like, whoa, you are having some trippy ass visions, and you are seeing some crazy stuff that we literally get like a montage in one episode, and that's got to sum the whole thing up. I've got to wonder, like, okay, what are you doing? It's like, I'm going to the north to go to this magical tree. Right. Okay, why? Because the Three-Eyed Crow told me. What? Where? In a dream. Like, sure. So it's hard to demonstrate like why that's important and why he really wants to do that and why he wouldn't make the obvious choice, like be reunited with a family member. Right. And so you can't, because we can't, get to kind of chew on his internal thoughts, making a decision like that. Like, wow, if he's not going to be reunited with Jon because it's that important, it must be really important. It must be something that he feels he needs to do. Obviously it's played up too by Jojen just kind of like on the verge of death, like, staring at him being like, the pain I'm feeling right now and the horrible future that might be ahead of me pales in comparison to how shitty the whole world will be unless you get there. So a hard thing to pull off to viewers without any clue as to what he would do when he gets to the tree or what's waiting for him or how his powers play into that.
Or why is this crazy little kid going to a tree, right? You see it last night. It's not just a vision that Jojen's told him about or some crazy fever dream. There's some sort of power behind this. Bran realizes it last night.
And Marco Rosado joined us right at the tail end, back
Hello.
from lunch. We're talking about the end, man. This is like an 18-minute scene, leading up to the wall. And, I was just talking about how it's growing on me, this whole Bran storyline, to really set up the importance of why he has to go, to the tree and why he has to fulfill his destiny.
Yeah, I think it's an effective way of showing, how imperative it is for him to pretty much find out who the Three-Eyed Crow is. Because in the book, it's really slow. Like, you don't really, like, even as you're reading, it's like, why are you so obsessed with this? And obviously it's because he's been having dreams, but on a practical sense, it doesn't make that much sense, right? But here, like, you kind of, you feel the weight of his quest.
I also like seeing people that are really good at what they do. Jaime's a really good sword fighter. Like, Brienne's like a really good knight. And it's just cool seeing Locke, like, be a badass. It's just, what are you going to do if you go up against Hodor? A really pissed Hodor. A Bran-possessed Hodor. But, he's really great. He shows up at at Craster's and identifies how many men are there. There's that extra layer of subterfuge of him spotting Bran and telling them not to go to that cabin. And just someone in the show who says, I'm really good at what I do, and then proves it. And that's always nice to see. But I recently bought a dog that's a year old now. I bought it last summer. And I almost lost it, man, when Ghost showed up. I mean, that was just, oh man, really great and really nice to see. You know, you forget about those wars. There's so many of them. We've lost so many damn Star Children, and so many, and you know, and Sansa doesn't have her dog anymore, and Arya doesn't have her dog anymore, and now Ghost and him separated. So it's nice to have a little bit of, I don't know, maybe the happiest moment we've had this season so far. I mean, think about it. This season. Yeah. Other than Joffrey dying, I mean, as far as like things you could look forward to,
an actual happy moment.
Any more happy moments foreseen? I think it's downhill from here. Certainly the North isn't going to have any happy days from now on.
We haven't seen a direwolf eat someone in a long time, right?
And that was great. When the millisecond he was like, "Oh, we lost somebody," I started laughing, and my wife turned to me like, "What?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I know it's going to happen." And that was really great. Again, like such a great payoff. You know, like comeuppance is something that is so rare. It's like a gemstone in the in this saga. And so to finally see someone like Joffrey or like this sap who was being horrible to women and abusive to Ghost, and locking him up to actually get something. It's so quick. You don't get to relish it for too long. But a good episode for the Stark children, finally, except for Sansa. Poor Sansa.
She's better off, though.
I think she's better off. She's definitely better off.
Still afraid, though.
She'd be in the dungeons at King's Landing right now, being tortured for killing Joffrey.
Oh,
so
sure.
She's definitely better off where she's at now.
Yeah, she couldn't have gotten out of that. I mean, if she just told Dantas like no, and just ran out there and was like, "Oh my God, Joffrey,"
Nothing would have got her out of that situation. She was destined to be screwed.
King's Landing, man, it's rough. Well, I mean, let's drop a spoiler dragon. So we're almost done with the show, and there's so many foreshadows going on in this episode. So if you guys don't want any spoilers to find out some of the serious shit that's about to happen on the show, then bow out right now. But I want to get into it. So, I mean, I love Littlefinger's little evil eye when he walks in, and clearly setting up that he's just like absolutely terrified of Lysa and that she's such, especially after Joffrey dying, and everybody basically saying in this episode like, sometimes you just got to take the dog out in the back of the barn and take it out, because it's got a bum leg or its heart is bad or something. It's a liability to everybody. It's not doing anybody any favors. You're just talking about a huge army that she has. Somebody's got to do something.
It's one of those things that also it makes a lot of sense, right? Like he says the whole reason he set up, killing Joffrey is because he can't control him. He doesn't like crazy people he can't control. So having Lysa there is not something that's going to last long. She is nuts, and he knows it, and he obviously has a thing for Sansa, so he's not going to let that last. I think, jumping ahead, like, I had a friend over last night, and I was like, when are we going to see Bravos? And then all of a sudden, the trailer for next week, we see the Bravos, and I'm like, oh God, it's moving so quickly. I didn't want to see Bravos this quickly. I meant like into next season or like mid next season Bravos. But it's great that like they're moving ahead. Looks like the Greyjoys are coming in.
Oh yeah.
I feel like they're also spending a lot of time like not jumping around. This season feels like it's a lot of longer scenes, longer kind of, hey, we're going to stay in King's Landing and go from plot to plot to plot instead of jumping around as much. So maybe we're going to get some longer Greyjoy sections coming up.
They need a lot of Greyjoy because they haven't been around for a while.
Yep.
But mega spoiler dragony. Remember what we talked about last week, Jeremy? I mean, after the podcast, we sat down and talked for a while about the show, and Bravos is a big deal.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a huge deal in the plot, and they're really playing it up in the show, even more so than the books. And in the books, like, characters go there and all that stuff, but there's a lot of foreshadowing about Bravos in the show, and especially about the Iron Bank, because a lot of characters kind of rely on the Iron Bank, and it kind of becomes I think the Iron Bank is going to be the thing that unfolds the plot for many characters. Like, it's going to maybe be their dead end. Like, people just rely on it too much, and then it comes back to bite them in the ass. And with all these characters going personally to Bravos, and like later, obviously Arya is on her way there too. I think that's gonna be the thing that the Iron Bank at some point gets pissed off and sends these people to like take care of all the people that owe them money. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because we're gonna start seeing, from where we are in the books now, and in book 5, we've seen a lot of people, at least in the first half of the series, it's a lot of families controlling things, right? It's the Lannisters pulling strings, it's the Tyrells pulling strings, and then all of a sudden we're kind of book 5, you're realizing that it's maybe some organizations pulling strings. So you have the Iron Bank, you've got the House of Black and White, has some shenanigans they're pulling. You've got the Citadel, which that mystery is kind of unfolding of, you know, did the Citadel and the Maesters have something to do with getting rid of the dragons? So you're seeing kind of all these organizations pop up, and it's not just about the families, and it's not just, you know, it's one of those things we learn, like, nothing happens within kind of like in a self-contained within Westeros, and you learn that the first couple seasons and the first couple books, but then you realize nothing actually happens self-contained in Westeros or the whole world. Anything that's happening in Westeros is also affecting what's happening in Essos. So you've got these organizations that are like, these guys are over there fucking around and just infighting, and think that we're just going to turn our back and let them do all this shit without us getting involved, and they're going to use our money, and they're going to use our spies, and they're going to use our mercenaries, and yeah, we're not going to let that happen. And, you know, and at this point, we don't know as book readers what the fuck's going on. But shit, I feel like Essos and Westeros are no longer going to become so self-contained. You're not going to hear about just Bravos, just Westeros, just like it's all kind of meshing together.
Even all the way to Slaver's
it's very
Bay.
international now. Yeah.
It's just becoming kind of, you know, and we're going to see characters go to Bravos, you know, probably end of this season, early next season. So it's nice to see them kind of hinting that, you know, kind of selling that earlier, bringing up names. We're going to probably see it next week. Is maybe it's just a B-roll shot or whatever it is, but it looks like we see it, you know. So it's these important places that are going to become important later, at least getting seeded in for the people that haven't, you know, read the books.
Yeah, up to now, like, everyone assumed, like, oh, the Lannisters are running the show, or the Greyjoys, or the Martells, and really they're all, like Tywin said, living in the shadow of the Iron Bank. Because the Lannister owe them money, the Night's Watch will eventually owe them money, Stannis owes them money, and yeah, they're all, like, you know, milking up the same cow, and the cow's gonna kick it in the butt at some point when it runs out of milk.
Dany hasn't gone to him yet. The only one that doesn't owe him money.
Yeah, well, she has her stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
She'll owe other people money.
I'm really excited. I'm really excited about seeing Bravos, though. I want to see. I mean, can we talk about the preview?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point we're full spoilers. So
Stannis, there's a shot of Stannis at the Iron Bank.
But is he at the bank or did they go to him? That's what I couldn't figure out.
Well, it looked like a temple.
It looked very.
It looked pretty official.
So that's like super new from the books.
Because he never stopped in Bravos.
No, it's just notes, right? Yeah. So, I mean, it's nice. It's a nice little detour. It's on the way. And we obviously, you know, we're going to get that reflection of Sam having to stop in Bravos to get south. So it's going to, you know, it's going to be known that that's kind of a midpoint, a stop that happens. So, yeah, I love the fact that they're kind of seeding those things in even earlier.
That means that in the next episode, the intro is going to have Bravos.
Will it though? Let's see.
I'm pretty sure. Man.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Was it the?
It's always exciting to see that.
What's the dude? The giant of Bravos? What's his
It has a name.
Statue. The Goliath of Bravos.
Something like that. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of based on the Colossus of Rhodes.
Yep. Cool.
Well, thank you, Marco, for joining us right at the last minute.
Yeah, I was having pizza. Sorry, I'm late.
Hopefully, we'll be back in full force with all 4 of the Maesters of Westeros. Another Game of Thrones, wonderful episode. I really enjoyed it. And thank you guys for coming in and chat about it. We'll be back next week.